Well, blessings, everybody. Blessings. This is Apostle Crystal Lee. Oh, what a journey it's been just to get to you this evening. We were having some technical difficulties, so forgive the lateness of time. We were getting to it as fast as we could, and I could probably see why this might be a bit of objection tonight, but we're going to have an amazing conversation. I've got my brother Apostle Ace in the room, and we are going to talk about the imminent return of the trans man. Okay, we're in the eighth day, and this is the end of Feast of Unleavened Bread 5785. We're in the new year, and we're going to end it right. Okay, brother, are you in the room?
I'm in the room. Holy shalom, sister. Hey, it's such a joyous moment. And I want to say holy shalom to each and everyone that is tuned in. It is always a plump, pleasing pleasure to be with you and the others. And just as you say, this is the new the eighth day, and it's a joyous occasion. It is
Yes.
if we can hear the conclusion of the matter.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
We have become we become the becomers. We've walked through some things and identified where we are, and now we're at the imminent return of the trans man. And I'm going to open it with the opener, and we'll just kick off the conversation with the opener. Every man longs for more. I don't know if you're in the room. When I say man, I mean mankind. Okay, more than the mundane, more than survival, and there is a cry that's deep within for the greater, the eternal. The seek has become a lifestyle, but the find that's determined by the direction of the seek. The find is directed by the seek. We have transferred into this space of the eternal, but there is a divine seek that is continual, and there are dimensions yet to be traversed, realms still unnamed in the language of man. But this is the hour of the revealing, not of something new. That's the kicker. Not of something new, but of something ancient, of someone ancient. That's a kind that darkness has only imitated or tried to contaminate, but never could replicate. This is the hour of the official trans man's rising, a man transformed, transfigured, translated, transcended, led by a spiritual GPS, marked by divine encounter. He does not guess his way forward. He's brought into the recall of the blueprint in his eternal spiritual DNA. And this is the one who walks in the image of the invisible and lives from the seated place while moving through time to eternal dimensions. We are excited about the imminent return of the trans man, and this was the beginning. And now we've begun again. We've begun again. Brother, are you there?
Yes, I am.
My Lord, talk to us tonight.
Yeah,
Talk
listen,
your thoughts on these things.
sister, sister. Oh my goodness, it is so powerful, and coming to understanding even more so. I'm just coming into the trans man,
Mhm.
and and so it's just interesting because when you start talking about it, then we talked about the eighth day and
Yes,
everything. It just so much is in that. So
it's
because
so much.
we really don't talk about the eighth day
No.
and the significance of the eighth day. We really don't talk about it, and
No.
I believe now that as we're discussing, we're going to talk about it, and things going to be revealed because the
Yeah,
dots have to connect, sis.
they have.
They have to connect because you know as I even thought about this, my goodness, thinking about just the eighth day because you mentioned some things and just thinking about the number eight, the
Yeah,
number of resurrection.
yes.
It's a number of resurrections. It's a number of creation,
Hmm.
translation, as you stated,
Yeah,
a number of new beginnings, starting over
yeah.
from after what the number seven.
After
It's
the
interesting.
yeah,
See. So when I look at number seven, we are in the seventh day, which is holy. Started from the beginning on the in the chapter Genesis chapter 2. You
Yes.
know, so here's that beginning of the seventh day, which is holy. And we understand that it's complete and what have you. But we saw some things. There's some things that has taken place. You know,
Hmm.
so we look at the trans man and what all this number eight means. And so we get and how so when I'm thinking, here is we have the feast times,
Yes.
Sabbaths, then we have the Sabbath that we come on the seventh day, and how it moves, and some people just in stationary.
Hmm.
However, what is so important is, when we think about this number seven, but we don't talk about number eight. We don't talk about the eighth day
Hmm.
because it's not we don't see the eighth day in the scripture. We don't see the number eight
Hmm.
physically, but it's there.
Oh, it's there.
But it's there because the first day, the day after the seventh day, is the first day.
That's right.
So the first day, so we look at seven, then the next day is the eighth day, which
Hmm.
is the first. So one and eight, one is eight and eight is one.
Hmm. That's it.
And we don't really talk about that because what's interesting when he invites her, he said, "Meet me at my appointed time."
Yes.
So I want you to so now so when I think about the created man,
Yes.
uh-huh, thinking about the created man and what he did, he formed him and then put him in a place, a
Hmm.
heavenly place, a place of eternal, a place of infinite glory
Hmm.
called the garden. The
Yes.
garden. So he formed him, and then he got his body right, he got his man, got his mind right. So he changed. He was the created man, now trans man into form, then put him in the garden.
Yes.
Then put him in the garden because now his body is now it is now in alignment with eternal, the
Yes.
eternal. On the seventh day, he is now a new creature.
Yes.
He is now he's now resurrected from the dead, from a created man to life.
Come
He's
on.
now it's a new beginning. Everything about him is not earthly. So now when we think about eight, one, so since I was thinking about this, and
Mhm.
it's just interesting because we meet him at this appointed time. And I began to think, he at the end, you got the sixth day, and then you going into the seventh day, the Sabbath. Now we see it, we experience it, but what does that really mean when we come into the appointed time that we are now entering in eternal place,
Yes.
an eternal place. So therefore, what we was created, how we were prior, when we come into his appointed time, we're changed.
Hmm.
We are changed because now we've entered into his space, his
Hmm.
glory. And
Yes.
so we go from evening to evening. And so when we come out, it's interesting. When we come out, we don't talk about when we come out. Oh, I sound real loud.
Come on now. Come on. Come
When
on.
we come out, when the Sabbath is ended, we don't talk about the first day.
Mm.
Whether it moves around with other people or others who do it on a set day, the next day, because some as today they will come out of the Sabbath, and the first day is what they call Sunday,
Hmm.
the first day of the week. But we need to understand what, however it's done, the next day is the first day,
Hmm.
meaning that when we come out of this, we supposed to be coming out and moving in the eternal.
Mm. Yes, sir.
We're supposed to be, so we practice this. We practice because we're supposed to our bodies are supposed to get accustomed because we don't talk about the first day or the eighth day,
Yeah,
meaning that eight is what? Infinite.
it
Eight
is.
is eternal.
It
Eight
is.
has no break into it.
Mm-mm.
None. So when we look at that first day is eight, and eight is first day. This is now I'm coming. I'm coming out of the Sabbath and coming into the first day. Now I'm moving. I'm moving eternally in a space that says, here's the next day. What I'm gathering on the feast, coming into his appointed time, when I'm supposed to gather, this is how I'm supposed to live each day.
Mm-hmm.
However, he said, now this is going to be a space where you're going to come into, the trans man is coming forth because it's going to be a place where he said, now I'm going to condition you. I'm going to do some things where now you're going to live this in the eternal, in your time, in your space, in the time of space that we have. You're going to be eternal because now you're going to begin to practice this. So we got these days and these Sabbaths and feasts to practice so that we can, so spiritually, as we understand, as we deal with the feast day, when do we come into the space of that the trans man is supposed to live this way, a daily life?
Mm-hmm.
When?
Mm-hmm.
Shavuot.
Mm-hmm.
Shavuot. He said, I'm gonna bring all this together so that now you can live this every day, that it
Yeah.
have no end. So now we on this journey we've been interrupted. Landmarks, boundaries have been taken away. Landmarks have been taken away, and we've been walking. Listen, we've been walking, and so now y'all said, but I'm going to return them because you're going to get a call in your heart based upon where you come from. Where you come from, you're going to hear a call. You're going to say, I want to come back home. But a lot of us
Yes.
don't know. We don't know how to get back home, but we know that there's something internally inside of us that said, I gotta this
Yes.
ain't it. This
Yes.
is not it. So when I think about that new man, that eternal, that I know old things are passed away, and behold, all things become new. I'm eternal. This is not just something that it's just not an earthly thing that I do it this it's much larger than most people in the religious complex system even can understand
Come on now.
because you talking about the first day. Now we're supposed to be operating at a higher dimension,
That's
dealing
right.
with dealing with different dimensions and vibrations and sound and
Yeah.
everything, because we understand that on the piano there are 88 notes.
Yes.
And so we talk about an octave, we go from 1 to 8 and 8 to 1.
That's
When you
right.
get to the eighth note, it's the same note but a higher octave,
Come on now. Come
a
on.
higher vibration, higher frequency.
That's it.
You see, that's a sound. That's an internal sound that
Yeah.
when you come from that, it's not when you're not operating at that eight level, you're operating on the earthly level,
Come on. Come
an
on.
earthly frequency.
That's right.
So it's just interesting that eight, the new beginning. Oh my goodness! Let me just shut up for a minute.
Listen, that's so powerful. That is so powerful. And it's amazing because the Father doesn't waste his breath on anything, but everything he breathed is eternally in us. And this is the hour that that thing is being revealed, the eternal breath, that eternal manifestation of what he breathed. There's no such thing as just surface with him. It's something beneath the surface. And I love that you mentioned that because as I was looking at the number 15, it was the letters or the letters Yod and Hey, which I thought was amazing, right? The letter, the number What was I looking at? I was looking at 15 because he was talking to me about the 7 and the 8, right? And how the 7 and the 8 come together. Because you're looking from the 7 to see all that has been done to identify this completion to step into 8. But when you step into 8, it was added to the 7 and it creates the 15, right? But that number 15 is the Yod and the Hey. I thought that was fabulous because that's the beginning of the name of Yah. Yod Hey. But notice he leaves the Vav Hey off because that's only for him. That's the portion that's remained that is left for him. But the sons come into the Yod and the Hey. And I thought that was fabulous because this Yod, when you think about the Yod, right? You look at the Yod and it is, look, I'm pulling it up right now again. It is the atom of the consonants, okay? But that Yod, I believe, is it the Hey or the Yod? That's the last letter. I think it's the Yod. That's the last letter in the Aleph. It's the last letter in the word Torah. That's what I'm trying to get to. The Yod is the last letter in the word Torah. I think that's absolutely fabulous. No, it's the Hey. I'm sorry. It's the Hey. The Hey is the last letter in the word Torah, which means something because here we are at this 7th day, and then we're stepping in to this 8. And this 8th day man is the man that is marked. You know, we saw the mark at the beginning, but now we see the mark at the end. Again, the Tav, and that is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet, which denotes that there's a different, like you said, a different resonance, a different frequency. There's a need to continue to move from the glory to the glory, from the faith to the faith, not being stuck, but in this divine momentum to go to that next resonance, to go to that next sound of Yah, to produce something and manifest something that is divine in the earth realm. It's so powerful. The word that this Hey, which is the last letter in the word Torah, means to behold. It means to look or to behold. I love that because Psalm 33, 6-9 discusses something about us looking at something. And this is what the Father is doing. By divine revelation, he's pointing everybody back to the crown of his creation. I want you to see something because he's saying, listen, it's been imitated, but it couldn't be replicated. Psalm 33, I believe is verse 6 says, by the word of Yah were the heavens made, and all the hosts of them by the breath of his mouth. So this Hey represents divine revelation. It's the symbol of the man that has come into the space of repentance, who is able to behold the revelation of Yah. Hey is spiritual life. It's the breath of Yah. It's the essence of all creation. I find that fascinating because the 80 is Pei, and that is the opening. Often the opening of the mouth is what's discussed. Of course, we know it's the opening, it's the portal opening, but the mouth is the standard identification on the Pei, which is 80, which we are in 85. So we got all this going on with the opening and the breath and the mouth. And now we got all of this pointing to the beholding of something. Why? Because something has to be expressed in this hour, both verbally and physically and eternally. It's got to be expressed. And this is what the Father is looking for right now. This is what he is seeking, the essence of his creation, because this is what he breathed into mankind, was this essence. And that Hey is also connected to light, which is spoken 5 times in the book of Genesis on the first day of creation, right? Hey also is 5, which is a grace dimension. It deals with the senses. It deals with levels of the soul, which we can explore at another time. But it's so many connections here. And like I'm saying, there is no surface when it comes to the things of Yah. When we start talking about this trans-man, we're dealing with this infinite and multi-dimensional conversations about a thing that you're only going to step into as you gradually grow. And as you gradually grow in the relationship and mature in the relationship. And I want to say this, because a lot of people try to come across as if they've got some kind of handle on this. None of us have no handle on divine things. I promise you. Because you the reality is, listen, We decide the relationship is going to be a priority to us. And as we step into the relationship and make it a priority, he decides the dimensions and the encounters he's going to take us on. You don't just sit somewhere and say, hey, I want to go to heaven right now. I'm going to have an encounter in heaven. That's not how that works. You step into the dimension with him. You walk through the garden with him, and he takes you on the different journeys. He takes you through the different spaces. We saw that from the beginning with the first Adam. He first was talking to him about what was in the garden. He first was talking to him about his responsibility in the garden. Then he began to take him on these different journeys after he gave him the responsibilities. He said, what did I call these animals? What did I call them? Let me check and see if you are prophetically attuned to my frequency. Let me see. This is how he knew when Adam had shifted, because he had taken him on journeys to expose him to himself so that he could become what he was exposed to. But in the moment of that fall, he recognized he's not reflecting the exposure. He's not a reflection of my exposure anymore. There's something else that has taken place. Where are you and what are you doing? How did you get here? And that's the cry of the heavens. Where are you, sons of Yah? And how did you get there? Because once you begin to identify where you are and how you got there, then you can identify the need to go back to the top, the need to return. It's the thing that I never saw in the beginning. Not until Seth came up on the scene was there a transformation in Adam. But before that, he never said, hey, I missed it. I messed up. He was pointing fingers. He was doing a bunch of stuff. But on the other side of this, when we understand the place that we're living from, we can then begin the journey from the right place. It's like being in a race and there's a starting line and you way behind the starting line. That's not a fair race. That's not okay, because you don't have the same advantage that everybody else has. And a lot of people are starting way behind the starting line. So it's taking them longer to get to the finish. The Father's saying, listen, I want you to start at the starting line. Don't start behind the line, way behind the line. I need you to start at the line, because when you hear the sound that demands for the movement, you are in the right spot. You're in the right space. Brother, come on, talk to us. I see you, AK. Blessings.
And you know, as you were saying in the beginning, as you were saying that, you know, the breath, as you were, you know, going through the understanding of the consonants and the vowels, and you know, you know, the letters and the sound and the hey, you know, you talked about the breath, you know,
Mhm.
so it's interesting as we where we're at now, what Yah is looking, where we return to, we restore back to where he's doing now
Mm.
for the sons of Yah. And so, and it's interesting that as this is happening, as
Mm.
this is happening, because now you know the breath as he blew the breath of life into Adam, he became a living being. He was filled now with his spirit of
Yeah.
Yah. He he was filled with his spirit, and so now, because as you were stating that everything that he said, you know, to name the animals, the form animals, that to name them, and y'all say, okay, I'm gonna see if we are in alignment. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see whatever you say. This is what there's a prophetic connection. There's an umbilical cord that we're connected, so that when you say it, I've said it already.
I already said it. That's how you're able
I'm,
to get it. That's how you're able to,
absolutely
because you're going to repeat what I've already said. You're not going to
already
just come up
already
with it.
done.
That's it.
Hmm. So I often say, you know, I share with people. I said, now this conversation that we're having now, and everyone that's a part of this conversation was a part of this conversation before the foundation of the world.
Come on
It was
now.
already done. We
Come
just
on.
caught up with it
That's
because
it.
we are in alignment and we come in agreement with what has already been stated. And so it's
My
just interesting that you're dealing with the breath. So when we're dealing with the very breath that's in us, when our breath is transformed, when our frequency is no longer the same, everything is different. Our breath, we don't have a breath of death. We have the breath of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we ascend to a place where the gods are, because now I am eternal. I am immortal. I'm no longer mortal. And so y'all said, now we practice this. Now, as you speak and with a different frequency, a different sound, where we at? So my mind thought goes back to Revelation chapter 11,
Yes.
and it says in the fifth verse, the fourth verse, these are as it were the two olive trees,
Yes.
and as it were the two lamps and of the seven lampstands, ministering for the Father who on earth. In
Mm.
verse 5, if any among them determine his mind in his mind to commit sin, the every word of Yahweh, the law and the prophet, like a two-edged sword of fire, proceeded out of what? The mouth of the spokesman
That's
of
right.
them, and
That's
he
right.
devours their enemy, and if any of them shall continue to commit sin in this manner, it is binding for him to be destroyed. Now here's the second one, verse 6. These hold Yahweh's authority to shut up the heavens in
Mm-hmm.
order the rain to fall. Rainfall does not rain. The days of their prediction, the right authority that they will have over the water to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every plague as often as provided they will do. This authority with the breath
Mm-mm.
with the breath that we come into. Now, he's bringing us back to this. He restored us back just like Adam that had his authority to speak what he spoke.
Yep.
So he got to mark us. We
Yes.
become marked that he can identify us. How do he mark us? How do we listen? When we speak what he speak. Oh, I know those who are mine.
Oh,
And so the earth, he said, these are the things that I want you to do so I can identify. We have the laws and the commandments, but there's an identification. He says, listen, I want you to do my feast and Sabbath. Well,
yes.
I know that you're mine and I'm yours. We connected. Why?
Yes.
Because it puts you in a place that you're not earthly. You are absent from the body, but now you're present with me at
That's
a
right.
place that says, here's a different frequency. Here's when you talk. Just have regular conversation, you're going to make a change. But yet you walk in my authority. I've given you permission to
Yes.
speak what I speak. I
Yes.
give you permission to permit and not to permit.
That's
So
right.
when you line up with that, then now I'm walking in the eternal. And so when you talk about that 15, that's
Mm.
powerful.
It's so
So
powerful.
now at 15, I am who he is
Period.
on the earth. Period.
And
I
it's
am his
crazy.
authority.
It's crazy because the 15 comes up several times. He was showing it to me from the seventh day and adding that 8 to the 7, but it also comes up
Hmm.
because of the numbers that are being used. Because
Yes, yes.
one of them is 10, and
Hmm.
I believe the yod is 5.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it comes up
Hmm.
repetitively in this moment
Hmm.
to identify this new creation,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
identify this movement of this new
Hmm.
creation, this one who has his hands extended, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
This one with the hands extended, understanding the new, understanding the now, right? And it's so funny because it doesn't take but it's not even a lot of conversation that has to be had with the yod, because the yod is the smallest uh Hebrew letter in the alphabet, right? The smallest. So often it could be overlooked if you don't know how to read Hebrew because it's small, right? But what the Father wants us to understand is that it seems small or it seems insignificant to speak, but that's the most powerful weapon that you have, is that speech, because that sound, the resonance of the sound that is internal, because he put it there, is what's going to make the difference. Like you're talking about the change. Nothing necessary. I don't have to go in speaking in tongues. I don't have to do any of that. Just my normal everyday language is going to translate into glory for the people that are in the presence of that conversation. If
And
I'm
it just,
go
I'm sorry, yeah.
ahead, brother.
And it just like, when Moshe says, "Show me your glory." He said,
Please.
I'm going to pass by and I'm going to announce my name.
Come on now. Come
My
on.
righteousness is going to pass you, but it's in my name.
Come on.
So it's interesting that when we begin to even say, give praise to Yah, or the I am, or the memorial name to I am, Yah, and how it's connected, synonymous with his glory.
Yeah.
We talk, so when we say hallelujah, and what takes place, the glory. We said the glory is now coming forth because his name, that name, and his righteousness, the glory is synonymous to who he is. We don't, but the glory, that sound, that
Mhm.
sound of glory. That when you talk about light, or light, aura, Torah, that light, that light that gives, and so that's that glory. And so therefore, when we begin to use that sound,
Mhm.
hallelujah,
Mhm.
hallelujah, it's we talking about globally that Yah is so amazing that he
Yeah.
put all of that in us to bring us under his jurisdiction. He
Oh,
said,
come
no
on.
matter no matter what y'all think, y'all can be divided with language, culture, and everything. But
Come on.
I'm gonna
That
get to
jurisdiction.
when you breathe. But here's the righteous. When you hear the righteous, because everybody got breath. But
Yep.
it's a difference. It's a difference between the breath of death and the breath of life, of righteousness. And it's interesting because when we all begin to say hallelujah, it changes the very atmosphere where we
Atmosphere.
at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
changes.
Yes.
It begins to judge. It begins to create, change things. Where there is evil, then y'all say, I'm going to judge it to bring it back to good. Where
Hmm.
there is sickness, I'm going to judge it and bring healing. Where there needs to be some deliverance, I'm going to change it where you're going to be healed, set free.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Why? With the sound. Just with that sound. And it is interesting when everybody get on that same sound, that same sound frequency from his realm in the universe, in the earth realm, and it's interesting because I tested. There are birds and animals that I begin to say hallelujah,
Yes.
hallelujah, and they stop and they listen.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's interesting. Even when I blow the shofar, everybody that blow into the shofar don't have the breath of life.
Come on.
They got breath of death. They got
Hmm.
bad breath. But when you see when you blow that shofar in the atmosphere, that's why now we are the trumpet. We are the trumpet. The sound that comes out of us. And so it just really it's remarkable, sis.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
And we so when we get into that time of that the sound and the trans man, we no longer what we was, but we come back to who we were.
Yes. Yes. It's not new. It's ancient.
No,
And
it's
the word talks
ancient.
about those ancient landmarks not being removed. We cannot remove the ancient landmarks because when you start removing the ancient landmarks, you start changing the directions of things. You start change because it's like telling somebody, well, they're lost, and so you're going to give them landmarks to get to where they're going. But what happens if they tore the landmarks down and you're not aware of them? They're still lost. So there are landmarks, spiritual landmarks that have been put in place that if we stay in alignment with those landmarks, we'll never go wrong. We'll never be lost. We'll always be found. And somebody said, well, how is that possible? How is that possible? Because there is an eternal GPS. It's internal. It's internal. And he gives us the direction that we need when we're longing for that. That's why the seek is so important, because there's one thing to have, the different experiences, but a seek is an intentional place. That's something that you decided, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. This is my journey. This is my desire. I'm desiring to seek him. He makes the statement, seek me while I may be found and call upon me while I'm near. You don't wait till you're in trouble to seek. You don't wait till you're in trouble to call. The response is going to be predicated on the relationship. And that doesn't mean he don't respond to people. He does. It's a heart issue. And it's also a covenant issue. But his desire is that you're in covenant and that the relationship is ongoing so that you don't feel, because this is what the adversary likes to do. He likes to make people feel really bad. Oh, I got to go call on Yah. So it's almost like you got two sides of that. You got the ones that feel like they can't call, and then the ones that's mad because they got to call, because now they've been so dependent on themselves to do things and to operate and to, they've been operating from their own, out of their own ideas about things. And now they got to call. And it's like, well, why I can't just, well, you can, but you need to be in a relationship in order to optimally operate on that, in that right place, in that righteous place. You can get a lot of stuff done, but if you're not doing it from the righteous place, then you're on the other side of the ravine. You're on the wrong team. Like that divide between the man that was in the temple and Lazarus, right? The priest that was in the temple. He got to that place. He was on the other side of the ravine. You hear me? He like, let Lazarus put some water on my tongue. Okay.
Come on now.
In the space he was in, he thought himself to be something because he knew how to operate. He knew how to function. And lots of people understand the religious operations of things or ritualistic, things. But if you're not operating from the relationship, then you're creating something else. It's no different than eating from the garden, eating from the tree of life in the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's the same thing. You're going to come up with something that's not the righteousness of Yah. It's going to be something that is a hybrid, and it's going to create a whole bunch of havoc. And so when you're looking at the havoc, you wonder, well, I prayed, well, I fasted, well, I did all this. Yeah, you did the rituals of things, but did you do it from the relationship? Because if you remember how the Father felt about the children of Israel, he got to the point where, okay, he gave the feast. He said, these are my feast days. But he got all the way over to one of the prophets, it might have been Ezekiel or Isaiah, and he said, look, I don't even want that no more. Keep your feast days. Those are your feast days. I don't want nothing to do with that, because that is not what I've called you to. Now you've created your own way of doing things. Now you're mixing things and you're blending things. And now you come up with a whole nother concoction that is not of my righteousness and is not giving me glory. It's sharing my glory with some other God that is not a representation of who I am anymore, because they've changed their position. Say something, brother.
Oh my!
I promise you, we're not gonna get through this whole lesson, but what I will promise you is we'll have this discussion when we step back over into galactic prayer, because this is going to be
yes. And so even as you begin to mention about the landmarks being removed and the boundary, and don't set up. They're taking the boundaries away. In other words, they're and so how to get back. We don't have no boundaries. They taken the boundaries away. They've done that. They've taken the landmark away. But it's interesting because, sis, now you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being corrected.
I like that. And likewise. That's what we do.
Listen, and it's interesting because as I see things now, because they did take our landmarks away.
Yes.
And they put up their landmarks.
Come on.
They put up their religious landmark. They put boundaries. All of that. They put boundaries. They've taken away our boundaries.
They treating that like Alaska or like Antarctica, where they're managing, they're gatekeeping how far you can go. And if you come into that space, you can only go so far, because they're going to all of the what do they call these people that do the travel? All the travel agents are connected to that whole situation. So you ain't going outside of the boundaries.
No, and even from state to state, when they here they create. But here's something that's interesting. what I'm seeing. Yahweh. mm, mm, mm.
My God.
We looking at the elements
Mhm.
because the elements is on display.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
elements, because we're gonna get our boundaries back that was laid for our inheritance.
Oh, yes.
And Yahweh is through the elements is tearing down their landmark,
Yeah.
rezone. Yahweh said, I'm gonna rezone.
Yes. Come on now.
I'm gonna rezone everything that you taken and zoned it for your wealth and your inheritance. What you done.
Uh-uh.
But this is what
Uh-uh.
I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the element to eliminate this because
Yeah.
we're looking at fires and floods and tornadoes and hurricanes that's
Tsunamis.
leveling out cities and
Yeah.
city blocks and things
Yeah.
like that. This is not in just one place, it's globally.
Globally.
So
Yes,
it's
it is.
important for the sons of Yah to be where we at, to begin to come back and say, this is what was laid for us.
That's it. That's it.
We gonna we
It's like the promised place. And we don't really
hmm
get this, brother, that these things that are happening are opportunities for sons to
hmm
step into spaces and dimensions. But because we only are relegated to the boundaries that have been established, we don't even have a mindset to step into those spaces and say, okay, well, listen, if they tore that up, right? We know darkness tore it up, but the Father will use darkness to tear up some stuff. You
hmm
allow that. But we're not looking at it, okay, they're going to need to build again. I probably
hmm
need some land over there, right? I need some
hmm
land in that space. I need to begin to identify and look. I told one of the sisters, she's in a whole nother space. I said, go look at the land. Talk to me about the land over there. She told me, oh, it's really reasonable. It's really cheap, right? I said, okay, I need you to find out what's going on because I'm feeling led to be able to
hmm
acquisition stuff in different spaces because these are the things
hmm
that has been talking to us about stepping in
hmm
different spaces and then identifying resources that were not even founded in that place. That's what's going to shift
hmm
the authority and the power of things.
hmm hmm
Because when
And
you
y'all,
step into that space and you come up
hmm
with stuff that ain't even native to that place, where you get this from? How you get this?
Ooh. hmm
Right? But if we don't never step into those spaces and do what we're called to do, then we never arrive at that destination where the Father begins to allow us to see the manifestation of this trend.
hmm
It's bigger
hmm
than just something falling out of the sky on your head. You know,
hmm
it's a
hmm
work that you have to be a part of. It's a finishing work, an accomplishing
hmm
work that you have to agree with heaven's word over your life and begin to allow this internal GPS, this spiritual divine system to move you
hmm
into spaces, not just physically, but in your mind. You got to be able to go to these spaces.
hmm
You
hmm
got to be able to go to these spaces so you can see what the Father is saying. I got 5 true trans prototypes for you. I'm telling you, we're not going to get done with this. 5 true trans prototypes. The first one is Enoch, and we've already talked about the Enochian breed, right? He was translated. Okay. I'm not going to be able to break everything down for you tonight, but I promise you in galactic prayer, and I want you to go and take what I'm telling you, take what I'm saying to you, and begin to pull these layers back. Okay. Because we're about to get off of here in about 10 minutes. I ain't going to be no more than 10 more minutes. We ain't going to be on here no more than 10 more minutes. It's the final day, but I want this thing to penetrate your spirit. I want you to be able to long for something. I want you to be able to go back and listen at this sound bite that I'm giving you to step into this new space. Enoch was translated. Okay. Hebrews 11:5 talks about by faith, Enoch was translated. He should not see death and was not found. He wasn't found because Yah had translated him. He wasn't found. That's what I'm going to say. He wasn't found. But before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased Yah. Now we know because of that, he walked with the gods, and then he was and he was not, right? That takes us back to the beginning. And then Genesis chapter 5, here we go. And Enoch walked with the gods, and he was not, for Yah took him. Elijah or Elijah was transported. There's a whole nother trans. Caught up by the whirlwind, right? 2 Kings 2:11. It came to pass as they still went on and talked that, behold, and this is Elijah and Elisha talking, having a conversation, because he's reaching this apex of his ascent, and he knows that he's apex of his ascent. He don't know how he's gonna be translated though, or transported. He's been transported before from one place to the next. And just like Enoch didn't know how he didn't know nothing about, okay, he wasn't there like, okay, I'm gonna be translated, and this is how. No. You're in the relationship, and the Father determines the encounters. He determines how that's gonna move. So you got a lot of people in the religious complex system that are trying to cross over into these dimensions, but they're doing it from a place that is witchcrafty. It's kind of diabolic. And I don't want to use the term witchcraft as much as I want to use the term diabolic, because it's something that I want to discuss later, right? Because what we're doing is we're seizing back to things that the Father has said, listen, that's been stolen. The landmarks have been moved, but who moved the landmarks was diabolic nature, while they operate unlicensed, illegally from the places that they moved the landmarks from. That's all I'm going to say. So Elijah was transported. It says, and behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, meaning separated Elijah from Elisha, because there was a separation between heaven and earth. Earthly dimension and heavenly dimension had to be separated in order to separate Elijah completely out of this dimension. It said he went up by a whirlwind into the heavens. He also didn't die, right? Philip was relocated, translocation. Okay. Acts chapter 8, verse 39 and 40. And when they were come up out of the water, the Spirit of Yah caught away Philip, and the eunuch saw him no more. We miss Philip. We miss Philip all the time. And he went on his way rejoicing, but Philip was found at Azotus. So Philip was having the same Elijah encounters, but he was translocated because he was still in the earth realm. Then you got transfiguration. Yeshua, right? The Mashiach. Matthew 17:2. Mark 9, 2 and 3. Says, and he was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. He was still in the earth, though. The same thing that happened to Moshe, right? That transfiguration. The word in Mark 9 says he was transfigured before them, and his raiment became shining, exceeding white as snow, so as no fuller on earth could white them. In other words, you couldn't get this white with nothing on earth to clean the clothes. This was another kind of light. This was another kind of white. And number 5, the sons of Yah, transformed. But understand, in the transformation, there is a, what are we calling this? A convergence of all the trans, which makes this trans man even greater than all the trans men before him. It's an ongoing transformation into the image of the Son, which was the firstborn of many sons, right? Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And this happens internally so that we can step into all the other dimensions, so that we can step into them. Now, it's amazing because there are some things that, you know, like the Elijah transportation, we don't really have to use that because he literally uses our the physicality to move us, you know. So I have not yet had the encounter that Elijah had because I move differently. But no encounter is a one size fits all, although it's going to be founded in what's originally written. Go ahead, brother, say something, because I'm about to turn this thing loose.
I'm just going to read this, and I'm with you when you're right. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 51. Behold, I show you a secret truth.
A mystery.
We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed. Yes. In a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. That's us. We're
Yes,
the
sir.
we're the greater. The trumpet is louder now than it started in the beginning.
Come on.
Okay, for
Come
the
on.
trumpet will sound, and the dead will rise incorruptible, and
Yes.
we will be changed.
Mm,
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Won't get
yes.
into it all right now. And
Mm,
verse 53. For this corruptible must put on incorruption,
my
and
God.
this mortal must, it's not an option, must put on immortality.
That's right.
Verse 54. So when the corruptible will have put on incorruption, and the
Mm,
mortal will have put on immortality,
yes.
then will be brought to pass the saying it is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death,
Mm,
where is your sting?
mm,
For the grave, where is your victory? The sting of sin is death, and the power over sin is his righteousness. So therefore, death, there's no more death.
mm,
None. We don't experience death anymore with
mm.
being immortality. So the trans man don't experience what he experienced as a mortal person.
Oh my.
So we've been trans into immortality. So
Yeah.
therefore, death, disease, and sickness, all like this, won't be found in us anymore.
Oh my.
I'm done, twin.
Listen, I'm gonna leave you with this, y'all. The eighth day is also circumcision. And if
Mm,
you
mm, mm.
allow the circumcision, then you will step into the original intent, which is the imminent return of the trans man. You're going to become. You're absolutely going to become. I want to give you 7 prophetic dimensions of divine becoming, and then I'm closing. 7. They all related to trans. Okay. The first one is transformation. It's the Greek word metamorpho that deals with the internal change of identity. You can find that in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. It deals with the function of mind renewal and a shift from conformity to divinity. Transfiguration, we talked about these a little bit, and this is metamorphy, which is glory revealed outwardly. It's something that happens because of the internal change. It now gets on the outside and it's visible by others. It's the hidden image bursts through the veil, like, okay? It's like shining a light through a piece of material. Okay, you know the light is there. If it was off, you wouldn't know it was there. But once that light comes on, you know that there's a flashlight behind it. Matthew chapter 17, too. You'll find that translation is metathemi. It means to relocate or change place or dimension. It's a bypassing of death and moving through realms. Hebrews 11:5. Transportation is what we saw in Acts with Philip, Acts chapter 8, verse 39 and 40. It's a spirit guided movement for divine assignment. And we know that could happen all kinds of ways. Don't need to be a chariot. He can make you outrun a chariot. That's what we saw in what they call the New Testament. We saw chariots taking people somewhere in what they call the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, he was outrunning the old technology. I'm just saying. Transmutation deals with the change of nature. The function is to go from mortal to immortal, divine nature. Second Peter chapter 1, verse 4, 1 Corinthians 15:52. Transcendence is number 6. And that's the Greek word huperneo, which means far above. Now understand, trans means to go beyond. So all of these trans are beyond something. Huperneo is far above. The functioning is to rise above natural systems and operate from the seated authority. Verses would be Ephesians chapter 2, verse 6, and Isaiah 55:9. Transdimensional, meaning operating across realms, unhindered by time or space. Hebrew prophetic echo is Elisha seeing chariots in the unseen realm. We saw that with Elijah, 2 Kings 6:17. The function is having full access to heaven while stationed on earth, piercing the veil with clarity, living in multiple dimensions while walking in this obedience that we're called to as sons. That is the ultimate space of the love relationship between us and Yah, is our obedience. And then in this transdimensional space, time becomes servant to the mission. Well, I want y'all to write that down. It's the place where time becomes servant to the mission. 2 Kings 6:17, John 3:13, Revelation 4:1. You'll see some things there. The call to come up here. And then I love 2 Kings 6:17, where Elisha prays for his servant. He says, open his eyes that he may see. Right? So the final revelation for the 7 transdimensions is that they reveal a heavenly technology embedded in you. This is not about transitioning from gender, although that's what the enemy took trans to mean, to change the operation or the physicality of the identity. It's about transcending from fallen nature to enthroned essence. It's about identifying that you were not born as a son of this age. You were not born from the space of sin, but from the space of redemption. From dirt to dominion. You got to get away from the dirt and go back to dominion. From manhood to manifested sonship. This is what we're called to. And so, listen, we'll have some more conversations about the trans man. Oh, you missed the third one. Let me go back to the third one. Hold on. She missed the, AK missed the third one. The third one was translation. Metathemi. Metathemi. Yeah. Hebrews 11:5. All right. We're going to turn y'all loose. I hope you guys were blessed this week. I was so blessed this week, and I love it. I love it when the Father make me feel stupid. I really do. And you have to understand, as you grow in the things of Yah, it's always going to be something new. It's always going to be some conversation that he hasn't fully given you the direction on. Now, he may have had conversations with you about it, but in order for you to really have the conversation with others, you have to have the authorization to have the conversation. So it's been some years we've been holding on to a couple of things, right? Like we haven't talked about this blue. We'll talk about it. But there are depths of Yah that we're going to reach in this hour that are just, they're just amazing. And I'm looking forward to the coming together of the sons on a more regular basis so that we can have this fellowship, like maybe in a Zoom setting. Even here, I can only right now do 10 of you at a time, but even here, just having some one-to-one conversations or some group conversations with you guys so that we can, allow heaven to write on our behalf, right? Brother, you want to say good evening to the saints? Because I'm out of here. Listen, I'm telling you right now, I want you to know that you're blessed and don't forget it. And the body is not a me thing. It's a we thing. I hope y'all know that.
Shalom, shalom. I love you all, brothers and sisters in law, forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Got to catch the scriptures. That's right, Elder. Go back and listen again. I tried to make it as short as I could. It's only an hour. So y'all get in it. Get to it. Love you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Shalom, shalom.